Everybody, thanks for joining in today. This Silver Dragoon channel, we kind of talk about money and precious metals and investments and finance. But I wanted to talk today kind of just about like this consumer sentiment when we discuss metals rising in price, or really any asset that rises in price, especially rapidly in a short period of time, versus a metal that is stagnant or falling, and how kind of the psychology of the masses, you could say, or people, and the FOMO that gets driven up there can really impact people's decision making. And why this kind of comes to mind is because obviously, if you guys have been following silver for any period of time here, right, we know that essentially silver went from, $30 a couple years ago, ran all the way up in a short period of time, 18 months or whatever it was, all the way up to 100 plus. And during this entire time, I kept hearing like very similar things being said on all the different channels that I was watching, or all the, comments in my own videos and things that were like, people really couldn't afford silver at these prices, right? It was pretty high. It was pretty hard to afford. Back when it was 20 bucks an ounce, you would pick up, say, 10 ounces or 100 ounces, right? It wasn't that expensive, 200 bucks for 10 ounces or a 10 ounce bar, right? You could also often find those at spot. Even 10 ounce bars and kilo bars I was buying at spot way back when it was, anywhere between $18 and like $22 an ounce. I remember I personally felt weird. I felt uncomfortable paying $27 for silver an ounce. I had a direct conversation with my wife going, this might be the dumbest amount of, might be the dumbest decision I make with our money this year. And I bought like 500 ounces of silver between like $27 and $30. And I felt at the time, I was like, this is really foolish. These are, all-time highs in like the last 15 years or whatever it was, since 2011. I was like, this is a mistake. This is a mistake. What's the upside, right? It can, like, if I'm looking at history, it's only going to go to like 50 or 60 bucks tops, so my upside is only like maybe 100%, but my downside, I could lose 50% as well. Like, there wasn't that big of a shift, right? There wasn't that much to risk, for a very little gain. And what we saw though is that from, under $30 an ounce, there wasn't really that much retail demand for precious metals. There really wasn't. There were people selling a little bit, but there wasn't. It was being talked about. It was exciting. Lots of YouTube videos out there, but really there wasn't like this massive wave of buyers and sellers. Then we got to $50 an ounce, and I really do feel like some of the euphoria and the craze for precious metals started to kick in as we got to $50 an ounce. That's when I started hearing people say things like, "Oh, I'm dollar cost averaging now. I'm buying all the time, because I want my average cost to be low as the price continues to skyrocket." You have all these, YouTubers out here talking about how silver is going to go to, $200, $250, $500, $1,000, and they kind of still do that today. I get it. It's really fun to talk about silver going up. You get a lot of views and attention, and your sponsors are happy because you get a lot of views and stuff when you're talking about silver going up. And we start talking about selling silver, you start talking about silver could fall in price, you quite honestly, you lose a lot of engagement. And so I think, videos that people put out are incentivized to focus on the positive aspects of silver and precious metals, gold, or whatever. And it encourages more and more people. The reason I bring this up is because it encourages more and more new people into the field of precious metals to want to buy, because they're getting caught up in that hype and euphoria of like, oh, this thing is going to be a moonshot. It's going to go up forever. Get in now before it's too late. You may never be able to buy silver again at these prices, right? Remember all the things that were being said. And then what really happened, right? All these people are, quote unquote, dollar cost averaging. What really was happening is people just couldn't afford that much silver at that price, And so it sounds better to say you're dollar cost averaging. It doesn't sound as good to say, you're buying 5 ounces a month because that's all you can afford, right? In reality, and we can talk about the math here, but the reality is that if from 60 to 120, dollar cost averaging was actually the worst strategy you could have taken. The best strategy you could have done was a solid lump sum right up at the front at $60 an ounce. That was the best strategy you could have taken. DCAing up to 120 actually hurts your average cost, right? So if you bought, let's just say you bought 100 ounces of silver, every $10 increment from 60 to 120, your average cost per ounce would be $90 per ounce. However, if you took that same amount of money and you just bought all those ounces right out there at $60, right, your average is $60 per ounce. So you would have doubled your money at 120. You could have sold 50% of your stack. You could have sold 50% of your stack at $120, and you would have been basically all the other half of your stack that you kept, you would have a $0 cost basis on. That would have been a better strategy, right? But again, we say DCA because what we're saying is what really is happening is that we all got caught up in the FOMO and the hype of the rapidly increasing prices. I mean, I can't blame anybody. Prices were going up like $10, $15 a day sometimes. I mean, there were $15 swings in one day up and down. It was insane. I remember around Thanksgiving to Christmas, like every day I would wake up, it felt like silver was up $3 to $5 every single day. And it felt like, you know, hey, the smart move is just to buy as much as you can constantly. So there was a point where also, remember, $50 was, I think, where a lot of people started to sell. There was a lot of, like, that's when the refiners started having weird issues. There was a lot of sellers. And there were some buyers, but there were not a ton of buyers. I went to a pretty large coin show around $66 per ounce. And most people, I talked to like probably 10 different booths because I had a bunch of, so I had like 100 ounces of silver or so that I was willing to sell because I wanted to transfer it into, half dollars and things like that I was looking for at the time. And every booth I would ask, like, hey, I mean, look at your stuff. And like, I was making deals for people and I was like offering to trade or sell. Most of them weren't buying any more silver because they had so many sellers. So many people were selling at $65 an ounce that they couldn't keep up. They were offering like 10% back of spot because they just didn't, I'm talking about pure 9 fines, kilos, 10 ounce bars, whatever. They were like 10% back of spot. So if it was 66, you're probably going to get 56, 57 for the silver that you were selling. That's what was happening. I mean, I'm telling you, that's what happened. I was there. There weren't a ton of buyers. There were not a ton of buyers. I didn't see many people buying. I was buying. I bought like a couple of grand worth of stuff, but not a ton. And it's funny is like, it was, if you guys remember, from about 75 to 120 was the euphoric stage of silver. People were buying such high quantities on the retail side. So many people caught up in the hype. People were buying so much silver that the online dealers had to limit. Did you all remember this? I remember this. They put limitations. Some of them put limitations on the quantity, the minimum quantity that you had to spend. Some of them increased their amount that you had to spend for free shipping. Many of them, almost all of them, put some banner on their sign that said, hey, due to all the crazy demand, we have processing delays, so it could take 2, 3, 4 weeks for us to process your order and get it shipped out to you. Please be patient with us. That was all above 100 silver, like that was 90 to 100 range. It was euphoric. Okay, and now we're in this world where we're looking here and we've got silver's pretty consistently since the fall off of early March. And then the stabilization early February is when the fall off happened, right? January 30th to like February 5th, we had that giant fall off and then kind of a retraction where we kind of balanced out in this like 73 average, right? We go down sometimes to 68, we go up sometimes to like 85. We kind of play in this little channel, channel just meaning like a steady, like the price can go up and down, but we're in like that channel, that smooth channel. And it's been, honestly, to me, it's been comforting. It's been comforting to see that it never really kind of breaks below $65 an ounce. It's been comforting to see I don't have days where I wake up and it's up $15 an ounce and all of a sudden it goes from 75 to 90 in 1 or 2 days. And then, if it does do something like that, right, we have a retraction, we have a pullback pretty instantly, like within the next day, that takes it right back into that channel. And this is, to me, I'm buying a lot, guys. I'm buying graded coins. I'm buying 90% still because it's low, and I'm buying generic silver. I'm even buying American Silver Eagles when I can get them for within 5% or so of spot. But really, I don't see any point of really buying American Silver Eagles unless you just can get them for the same amount as generic, because when you're going to sell, if they're not perfect condition BU ASEs, you're gonna probably get the generic silver bullion price anyway, so you might as well just buy generic bullion rounds and bars for close to spot. Like that, like right now, like if you're going to buy now, and then like, what do you think long-term is going to happen, guys? Like we look at these markets, and then here's the other point about this though, is that when the prices fell from 120 to 75, you know what happened to all those dollar cost averagers? They all just left the market. It seems like they just decided, hey, you know what? Not, and again, not all of them. I have some people in my own community that I talk to that are still buying. They are still dollar cost averaging. They're doing it the right way. Dollar cost averaging only works. It only works if you're buying on the way down too. It's the best strategy for buying typically when prices are falling, because you probably don't know where the bottom is, so you can't really know where to lump sum in, right? So DCAing downward is the right play. DCAing upward is not the right play. So it's so ironic that the mentality shift of people that like, oh, I've got to buy all this silver and I've got to put as much money as I can to it every month, and I've got a dollar cost average all the way on the way up to 120. But then when there's a retraction, I have an opportunity to actually lower my average cost, I don't do it because I'm scared that it's going to keep falling. Make it make sense, guys. Please, if you can learn anything in like finance and life, please start to learn to go against the herd. Be a little bit of a contrarian. You don't have to be a contrarian that's like, I'm going to go jump off this mountain without a parachute because nobody else is. I'm not saying be like that crazy risk taker contrarian, but just think about what people are doing. Take some time to like think about the why. You gotta sniff it out, and you gotta read through the BS sometimes of what not just YouTube content creators are saying, but like also sometimes just what people are saying in general. You know, I don't think anybody's maliciously trying to harm somebody else or put them in a bad financial spot. I don't see any malicious channels. There's some that are just blatantly lying. There's some channels that are just completely ignorant of finance and stuff, but that's fine. They have their niche. They have their purpose, right, for doing stuff, right? They're still entertaining, or they've got cool pickups that they show you, or like they're just nice people and you want, but I don't see many malicious people, but there are people that are motivated in for other reasons, right? Like if I'm getting paid to make content for a company or organization that sells silver, it's in my best interest. And not only that, but YouTube is like promoting my videos and I'm getting more views and more subs and more attention and more income. It's in my best interest to always spout out good, positive hypotheticals of what silver could do, and to reinforce all the reasons why you should own precious metals and all the reasons why you should buy silver. Like it's in my best interest, right? It's not malicious. It's just I'm self-serving, my, you know, like what I believe. But not many people play like both sides. And if they do play both sides, they're like, oh, I think silver could go to 150. I think it could go to 50. Oh, it's going to go to one of those two. Like, okay, great. You really you should have just not even given a prediction, because your prediction's useless, right? We're full of that stuff. And I'm not talking negatively about the people doing the content. My point, though, is for you as the consumer of it. Myself, I'm a consumer of this content. I make my own content, but I'm also a consumer of everybody else's content. And we have to remember, like, just you got to sniff it out. Don't get caught up. Don't get caught up in what the masses are doing. We had debates about whether or not we had an actual, you know, frenzy euphoric stage of precious metals. And I think at this point now, everybody can kind of agree, yes, from 70 to 120 was a craze. It was a, you know, Furby craze, or what are those things? Beanie Baby craze or tulip craze, or right? It was the same thing. Now, the good thing is, though, is in this world that we live in this country that we live in, and the fiscal policy that we lean on with the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, there's a very high likelihood that we continue to spend more than we take in as a country, that we continue to borrow other nations' debts, that we continue to issue our own debt and quote unquote print money, right, from the Federal Reserve actions, you know, buying out treasuries and bonds and stuff, right? Like, we're going to continue to do these things. We're probably going to continue to pump money into the economy to support banks that are failing, to support housing markets that are failing, to support auto industries that are failing, to support the airlines that are failing, to support the oil and gas companies that might fail, right? This is the nature of the beast that we're in, which all of these things over time create inflationary pressures, and there are exponential growth factors that we're kind of beyond the point of no return. So yes, I personally do think precious metals are a great asset to have. Because I do think that they're going to continue to rise over the long term. They're going to continue to rise at or exceeding the rate of inflation. I also think there's a lot of other assets out there that are amazing things that you can purchase, put your money into, sit on for a while. Now that's for you. That's a market for you to to discover and find out what you're comfortable with, what you enjoy. But if you can connect like a hobby that also has assets, right? Like coin collecting could be a hobby that has assets that you can purchase, right? There's a lot of things out there. Again, I don't want to persuade anybody to do one or two things or whatever. You find the niche that you love and do that. If it's just straight stacking bullion and stacking older bars and art bars, or like that's a great thing because you're stacking assets. You're spending your money, your fiat money on things that could potentially increase at a rate greater than inflation. And I think that's very important. Just keep all this in mind. Anyway, I appreciate you guys just hanging out with me, man. I just want to kind of like, and honestly, the channel might shift kind of to this theme of where I'm just talking about things that are on my mind, and hopefully it resonates with people. If it doesn't, and I'm completely like off base, and I'm going like you think that I'm completely spouting BS, that's what the comment section's for. Call me out if I'm saying BS. Call me out if I'm offending you. Not that it's going to change the message, right? But you can call me out on it. And if it is something that I need to go back to the drawing board about, and I need to study and learn and like check my facts or check my figures, I will definitely do it. I'm not so prideful that I can't learn from other people. So yeah, leave me messages. Let me know what you're thinking. Thanks for watching. Again, this is gonna probably be I'm probably gonna do less of like show and tell videos. I'm still gonna do the live content. The live content will still be about collecting precious metals and specific pickups that I get, and like my walking $50 Liberty series that I'm like trying to collect and make a really nice graded coin collection around that stuff. Blah blah blah. There's still going to be plenty of that content, but I think my videos are going to shift to this sort of like, we just talk, man. We're just some friends hanging out at the coin club or whatever, church, wherever it is, and we're just talking about money, finance, precious metals. So thanks for your time. Remember, dollar cost averaging. The biggest takeaway is dollar cost averaging. If you're only doing it on the way up, you're doing it wrong. You're lying to yourself. You're not DCAing. You're just spending what you can spend in the hype and euphoria. If you're truly dollar cost averaging, you're buying on the way down as well, reducing your overall average cost. Anyway, appreciate you guys so much. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.